Because I forgot the gravy for the pot roast, my wife of 10 years unilaterally declared the start of our 98th Cold War. She sat across the dinner table, watching my calm attempts at conversation spiral into a hysterical argument. Her eyes were placidly cold. I was the raving lunatic. She was the silent, stoic victim who would, in a moment, turn and walk away, leaving me to wait for my inevitable surrender. She played this part 97 times before. Each time, she was certain I would be the one to break, to crawl back and apologize for the crime of her silent treatment. But this time I decided to pack a bag. This time I was going to end the marriage. Before I left, I sat on the bay window where she had once proposed to me and began to write a final letter. Avery, before I could write the word divorce, a reply appeared on the page, seemingly from nowhere. Who is this? How do you know my name? My pen froze. I stared, disbelieving, at the words materializing on the paper. The handwriting was a fluid, confident script, the last letter of every word trailing off in a long, dramatic flourish, like a teenager's irresistible energy. I remembered that flourish. It was how 18-year-old Avery used to write. I flipped the paper over and over, checking for some kind of trick. Nothing. More words were appearing. Who are you? Why are you writing in my journal? All right, whatever you are, spirit, demon, glitch in the matrix, show yourself. Reading that melodramatic, nerdy demand, I was even more certain. This was the authentic voice of Avery at 18. Could this paper somehow be a bridge through time, letting me talk to the girl I married? The thought was insane, but I picked up the pen again. I'm Ethan. I hesitated, then added another line. The 28-year-old Ethan. I expected her to reject something so absurd. I was braced for the page to remain blank forever. Instead, after a brief pause, a new reply flooded the paper. 28. You mean Ethan from 10 years in the future? We're still in touch. What? Is the tech in the future this insane? Okay, quick. Tell me, what am I doing in 10 years? Did I get into my dream school? Do I have a job I love? Am I, successful? The sheer life in those words made my eyes sting. I'd almost forgotten she could be this vibrant. As for success, I had no idea what the current Avery's definition of success was. We hadn't had a real conversation in years, but for the 18-year-old girl on this page, the answers were easy. You could say that. I wrote back, giving her the details. You got into your first choice university, even did a double major with Arabic. After graduation, you didn't become a diplomat like you planned, but you went into international business. You're a senior exec at a major corporation now. You make well into 6 figures. As for successful, you became a very powerful woman. You achieved every dream you had as a kid. No way. That's awesome. Her joy was practically bleeding through the ink. She kept writing. And you know all this about me, which must mean that in 10 years Yes, we're married. We have a beautiful daughter. Her name is Lily. Yes, yes, yes. I knew it. I knew it from the first time I saw you freshman year. As the last word appeared, the paper was punctured by several sharp holes from the force of her pen. I could almost hear her shouting with excitement. So, we must be really happy, right? My hand stopped. I thought of Avery's cold, dismissive glare from just an hour ago, and a tear splashed onto the page. Are you crying? 18-year-old Avery was sharp. She saw the tear stain blurring the ink. Why? The future me. Do I make you sad? More than sad. The 28-year-old Avery was driving me insane. I instinctively started to nod, then remembered she couldn't see me. Slowly, deliberately, I wrote the words on the page. Avery, I'm going to divorce you. The paper stayed blank for a long time. So long. I thought the strange conversation was over for good. Then a new message appeared. Can you tell me why? Her handwriting was shaky now. Did I do something to hurt you? Did I cheat? Neither of those, I wrote back. The truth was the opposite. For 10 years, Avery had been a model of fidelity. To everyone else, she was the calm, gentle wife, the devoted mother. Only I knew that her gentleness was a sheath for a blade made of ice. A blade that killed you silently without leaving a mark. In the end, I could only give her a vague answer, using words she herself had once spoken to me. Maybe it's just, you don't love me anymore. That was what she had said to me on our 10th anniversary. I had a candle at dinner waiting when she got home from work, and the first thing she said was, "Ethan, being in love is for kids. All I have left for you is obligation." Impossible. The reply from my 18-year-old wife was so forceful, it nearly tore the page. "You've been a man of my dreams since high school. Marrying you would be the best thing that ever happened to me. How could I possibly stop loving you?" Yeah, how could she? If I hadn't lived through the last 10 years, I wouldn't have believed it either. That the girl who once showed up below my window with 99 red roses. The woman who at her college graduation told me with tears in her eyes, "Ethan, I'll die of regret if I can't marry you." The wife who on our wedding night was so nervous she spilled our champagne, then just laughed and buried her face in my chest. How could that person spend a decade ignoring my pain, using the silent treatment to bend me to her will, and summing up 15 years of love with the word obligation? Just as I was about to write more, I heard the click of the smart lock on the front door. The 28-year-old Avery stood in the entryway, dressed in a sharp business suit, her expression placid. "Lily's going to be late for soccer. Did you pack her snack?" I laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. She was still dodging the conflict. The conflict that started because of a pot roast she didn't approve of, launching the 98th Cold War of our marriage. Just then, the door to our daughter's room opened. Lily stood there clutching a stuffed animal, her expression as neutral as her mother's. "Is Daddy mad again?" she asked, tilting her head, her tone matter of fact. I moved to hug her, but she instinctively stepped back into her room. My heart seized. I heard her small, quiet voice. "Daddy, I heard you yell." Lily sighed, a sound far too weary for a 4-year-old. "My teacher says it's not good to have tantrums. You should be more like Mommy." With that, she ran past me to Avery, a tight, sharp pain spread through my chest. A 4-year-old can't comprehend passive aggression. All she knows is that compared to her calm, composed mother, her father is an unpredictable monster. My packed suitcase sat in the middle of the living room, impossible to miss. Avery walked right past it without a second glance. Because this was a Cold War, she wasn't concerned with why I'd packed a bag. She didn't even care if I was leaving. "Avery, let's get a divorce." Avery paused. She turned slowly, her eyes scanning my face, trying to gauge if this was a genuine threat or just another empty tantrum. After all, to her, a serving of pot roast wasn't a big deal. And to her, one more Cold War wasn't a big deal for me either. "Don't worry, Mommy," Lily whispered, tugging on her mom's coat. "Daddy always says he's sorry, doesn't he?" The words hit me like a slap. In my own child's eyes, our sick, twisted dynamic was completely normal. "This time is different," I said softly, but they were already gone. My gaze drifted back to the bay window. I saw more writing had appeared on the paper. While I looked closer, I realized it was a transcript of everything that had just happened in the house. The last line was a question. "Ethan, are you really leaving?" I picked up my pen and drew a check mark next to it. I had survived 10 years in this cold, empty house. I couldn't stay another minute. I don't know what happened to me when I grew up, but I can tell you're unhappy. But she is her, and I am me. There are still 10 years to go. Maybe I can find a way to change things. "Ethan, can you please give me another chance?" The next day, I moved out. I used the money I'd saved from my content creation business to rent a small one-bedroom apartment across town. I was surprised when Avery called me the following morning. Usually, her silent treatments lasted a minimum of 3 or 4 days. Forgiving me overnight was a first. I answered, and her cold voice came through the phone. "You're on a business trip. Why didn't you tell me?" "No, She cut me off." "Good. Lily's preschool is having a parent-teacher conference this afternoon. I have to work late. You need to be there." Her tone was so normal. It was as if we hadn't discussed divorce yesterday. Then she hung up. I tried to call back. It went straight to voicemail. I let out another one of those bitter laughs and sent her a text. "Do you really think I won't leave? Or do you just not care?" As expected, the message went unanswered. A moment later, my phone rang again. It was Lily's preschool teacher. "Mr. Miller, can you please come to the school as soon as possible? It's about Lily." When I burst into the school, I found Lily sitting by herself in the reading nook, calmly looking at a picture book. Her expression was serene, and if you didn't look closely, you'd miss the angry red scratch mark on her cheek. Who did this? I couldn't help my panicked tone. Lily was always so well-behaved, a quiet child just like her mother. She never started fights. To see her hurt like this meant someone had bullied her. Mr. Miller, please calm down. Here's what happened. Ms. Davis, the teacher, lowered her voice and pointed toward a little boy in a blue t-shirt in the play area. That's Leo. He and Lily are usually best friends. They've been inseparable all year. But for some reason, starting last week, Lily just stopped talking to him. For 3 whole days. No matter how much Leo tried to apologize or play with her, Lily completely ignored him. I asked her why, and she said it was because Leo accidentally broke one of her crayons. It was a silly little kid argument, but Lily just wouldn't let it go. She refused to even look at him. My heart began to pound. And then what? Ms. Davis sighed. Leo is an impatient kid. When he couldn't get her to talk to him, he thought fighting might get her attention. But even after he scratched her, Lily didn't say a single word to him. Honestly, this is just kids being kids. I wouldn't normally call a parent in for something like this, but Lily's reaction is strange. What kid her age gets hit and doesn't cry or yell? Something felt wrong, so I thought it was best to call you. Lily's method for handling conflict felt terrifyingly familiar. It was Avery's method. A ringing started in my ears. I walked mechanically over to the reading nook and knelt in front of my daughter. Sweetheart, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Can you tell Daddy why you won't forgive Leo? His apology wasn't good enough, Lily said, closing her book. Her eyes were frighteningly calm. He broke my crayon, but he didn't give me a new one. As long as I don't talk to him, he'll figure out what he did wrong, just like Daddy does. My breath caught in my throat. I was thrown back to our 83rd Cold War when Avery had told me, "You know I'm being quiet? Think about what you did wrong." As long as I couldn't guess the reason for her anger, the silence would stretch on indefinitely. Lily, I set my throat tight. Ignoring people on purpose is wrong. It will make your friends. But that's what Mommy does, my daughter interrupted. When Mommy is quiet, Daddy says he's sorry. And then Mommy smiles. When Leo broke my crayon, I was quiet like Mommy. Sooner or later, he'll understand that I want a new box of crayons. A chill went through my entire body. I thought she was too young to be affected. That's why I had hesitated yesterday when the 18-year-old Avery offered to find a way to change. What parent doesn't want to give their child a complete home? But today made me realize that the silent treatment wasn't just Avery's weapon against me anymore. It had become Lily's blueprint for how to resolve conflict. Before we left the school, I made Lily apologize to Leo. I spoke with his parents, and we both promised to teach our children better ways to handle their feelings. The 2 kids made up. Since Lily had school the next day, and I needed to talk to her about the divorce anyway, I decided to take her back to our old house for the night. After I put her to bed, I took out the sheet of paper. It was covered in messages from the younger Avery. Ethan, you didn't write back all day. I wanted to tell you I have a plan. I'm going to start a journal. I'll write down all the things I can't do to you when I grow up. I'll read it every single day. And I know I can change how my future self acts. I told her what happened at the preschool. The steady, confident handwriting immediately became a frantic scroll. It's my fault, Ethan. It's all my fault. There's still time. I'll add notes about how to raise Lily in the journal, too. It's too late. I wrote quickly, cutting her off. I thought there was still time, too. But seeing Lily today, she needs a healthy environment, not a whole but broken family. I've already given the divorce papers to my lawyer. Avery, we're not going to see each other again. No, she wrote back in a rush. Give me one more chance. Just one. I was reading about it today. The silent treatment is a learned behavior. It can be unlearned. I smiled faintly. So when you were a little girl watching your father use the silent treatment on your mother, is that what you told yourself too? The pen on the other side paused. The next words trembled. You knew about that? I'd known the ugly truth since the 3rd year of our marriage. Like her, I had once believed she would never repeat her father's mistakes. But it turned out that while cruelty isn't genetic, it is contagious. The tragic part was even now the 18-year-old Avery was still trying to hide that fact from me. The next morning, Avery came home. She unilaterally ended her one-woman Cold War and in a rare gesture invited me to have lunch with her. At the table, I slid the printed divorce agreement in front of her. We need to find a time to go to the courthouse and file this. Avery froze, her eyes turning to ice. Are you trying to make me angry again? A few weeks ago, that sentence would have pierced straight through my defenses, turning my rage into panicked anxiety. But today, I just took a sip of water to quell the nausea rising in my throat. As per the prenup, the house and the cars are split 50-50ths. Lily is young. I want full custody. Avery's brow furrowed. Sensing something was different this time, she defaulted to her usual tactic of changing the subject. Don't be ridiculous, Ethan. You know I'm in the middle of that big international project. The pressure is immense. In the past, her evasiveness would have sent me into a blind rage, making me throw whatever was at hand just to get a reaction. Avery was always content to watch me lose control. To her, as long as I was still crying and shouting, it meant I still cared. It meant the marriage could go on. But now, all that anger had been replaced by a deep calm. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just spoke quietly. This afternoon, I'm moving the rest of Lily's things to my new apartment. Call me when you've signed the papers. The smile on Avery's face vanished. She lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. Ethan, are you serious? I shook her hand off, not wanting to explain further, perhaps because she had never seen me like this. The normally composed Avery began to panic. The words tumbled out of her. Aren't you afraid of making me angry? Making a scene like this over a pot roast? Aren't you embarrassed? Ethan Miller, you've got some nerve talking about divorce. I ignored the shouting behind me and calmly walked out the door. Her voice grew fainter. We both knew the truth. This calm was far more terrifying than any tantrum because it meant I no longer cared. For the next few days, Avery was completely unreachable. I was just like her. When faced with a real problem, her only instinct was to run, hoping that time would smooth everything over. After 10 years as her husband, I knew her better than anyone. So, I filed a formal petition with the court. The day she was served, I watched the live feed from the security camera in our living room. On the screen, two familiar figures stood in the room. I saw the 28-year-old Avery holding the court summons in one hand, screaming at the 18-year-old Avery with the other. I told you to convince him to stay. Why is Ethan still filing for divorce? Hearing her voice through the camera's speaker, my blood ran cold. So, the 28-year-old Avery had known about her younger self's arrival before I did. She had even tried to use her as a pawn to manipulate me into coming back. You're useless. On the video, the younger Avery struck first, slapping her future self across the face. Within moments, both of them had blood trickling from the corners of their mouths. The teenager leaned against the wall, a defiant smirk on her face. Oh, and you not? You wrecked your own marriage, and you need a kid to come and save it for you. At that, the older Avery's rage ignited. You don't know a damn thing, she screamed, facing her younger self. Her anger was raw and direct. I'm out of time. If this wasn't the 98th time, do you think I'd waste my company's most advanced experimental tech to pull you, a stupid little brat, out of the past? Her words sent me reeling back 10 years after our very first Cold War. I had held her as she cried and said, the day you give me the silent treatment for the 99th time, I will leave you forever. I had loved her so much back then. I was willing to watch our love slowly die before I would let it go. But as the silent treatments became more and more frequent, I thought she had forgotten that promise. But she hadn't. A stupid brat knows what Ethan wants better than you do. The teenager's voice on a video shot back, pulling me from my memories. He would rather have a screaming match with you than be tortured by your sick, passive-aggressive silence. But every single time, you either run or hide. You've pushed him to the brink of insanity. What do you know? The woman in the business suit shot back, her voice frigid. I was afraid of saying something in the heat of an argument that would hurt him. You think this is easy for me? I work 16 hours a day. I deal with pressure from clients, from my bosses, from everyone. I don't want to come home and have to fight with him over every little thing. So you choose the easiest, most hurtful way to deal with it. You swore when you were a kid you would never become like Dad. Avery, what happened to you? Hearing those words from her own past self, the composed woman's face twisted in anger. I've done more than enough. Do you think money grows on trees without me killing myself at work? Could he and Lily have the life they have now? I'm sorry, Ethan. I know I neglected you. I know I hurt you so much. I regret it more than anything. When I first heard you say you wanted a divorce, I thought my heart was going to break. I got your text. I wanted to tell you that I do care. I was just too proud. I wanted you to chase me a little more. So, you protected your precious pride by trampling all over my dignity. Do you know what I felt like for the past 10 years? Not your husband. I felt like your damn lapdog. No, it wasn't like that, she explained, her eyes red-rimmed and desperate. I never thought of you like that. I was just so afraid of saying something awful to you when I was angry. I thought being quiet was better. You don't have to dress up the silent treatment in such noble language. I stood up and looked down at her. It was time for the question I'd been waiting to ask. Avery, what did you do with her? Avery's expression tightened. You know, I saw the security footage of you two fighting. You arranged for me to talk to the 18-year-old you because you knew that day was the 98th time. One more and our marriage was over. But you didn't count on your younger self taking my side. The woman at the courthouse in the hearing. That was her, wasn't it? Hearing this, Avery scrambled forward and hugged my legs. She's only 18. How could her feelings for you be as deep as mine? I brought her here to help us, to save our love. If she hadn't gone crazy that day and tied me up at home, I would never have agreed to the divorce. But don't worry, I just sent her back to her own time. If she stayed here, who knows what other nonsense she'd fill your head with. When I didn't respond, she lifted her hand and began slapping her own face. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry, Ethan. As long as you don't divorce me, I will do anything to make up for the pain I've caused you. It's too late. The slapping stopped. Avery looked up at me, her face a mask of disbelief. But we've been through 10 years together. We have a beautiful daughter. How? How can you just throw it all away? The 18-year-old Avery once told me that if being with you really made me this miserable, she would be willing to set me free. What the hell does she know? Avery's chest heaved. She hasn't even been to college yet. What does she know about love? Don't listen to her. I think the 18-year-old knew how to love me better than you do now. Avery froze. I continued. If you don't agree to finalize the divorce, I will drag this out forever. And in that time, I will make you feel every ounce of pain you made me feel for the last 10 years. You'll live with the shadows of your childhood, waking up every day to silence. Every word you speak met with cold indifference. Avery stumbled backward and collapsed onto the floor, tears of regret streaming down her face. No, Ethan, please don't be so cruel to me. She stared at me, searching my face for a flicker of pity. But all I gave her was one last sentence. Avery, if you don't believe me, you could try me. On the final day of the waiting period, Avery met me at the city hall as promised. After the clerk confirmed our intentions several times, the final stamp was applied to the divorce decree. Looking at the crisp official document in my hand, I felt an incredible sense of relief. It was as if a knot that had been tightening in my chest for years had finally loosened. From now on, I wouldn't have to walk on eggshells. I wouldn't live in fear of a pot roast without gravy, a shirt that wasn't ironed perfectly, or a suit I wore without her prior approval. The love I had once dreamed of, the marriage I had once cherished, had finally, in its end, given me back my freedom. Ethan, even after a month, the 28-year-old Avery still called out to me on the courthouse steps. I don't expect you to forgive me for what I did, but can you not hate me? I was in a taxi and pulling away before she got her answer. Watching her expression crumble in the rearview mirror, I wondered. Her silence had imprisoned me for 10 years. How long would my silence imprison her? 5 years later, Lily and I opened a small bookstore in a town on the shore of Lake Michigan. I heard a child's quiet sobs from the doorway and saw my 9-year-old daughter carefully applying a Band-Aid to the scraped knee of a little boy who had fallen. I was so grateful that Lily hadn't grown into an emotionally stunted person like her mother. She knew how to express her feelings, to talk through her happiness and her sadness. When she saw that I was down, she would notice and wrap her arms around me and ask, "Daddy, do you want to get some ice cream?" Seeing how much she had blossomed, I knew that divorcing Avery had been the rightest decision of my life. It had been 3 days since I'd last heard any news about Avery. Her therapist had called me. She had overdosed on sleeping pills at home in the middle of the night. After leaving the city hall that day, Avery had checked herself into a hospital. The diagnosis was severe depression. She had started intensive therapy, and with every child support payment she sent, she would include a note about her progress. I never cared to read them. Maybe it was the unanswered notes, or maybe it was the unanswered question on the courthouse steps. Avery had trapped herself in the past, and, in doing so, had destroyed her own future. Before hanging up, the therapist asked if I would consider visiting her in the hospital. She keeps saying your name when she's delirious. If you came, it might help her condition improve. I asked Lily for her opinion. At 9, she was old enough to understand the difference between a stable parent and an abusive one. Like me, she had no desire to see that cold, distant person ever again. The afternoon sun glittered on the lake, the water sparkling like scattered diamonds. Lily was crouched on the sand, happily poking at a small crab with a piece of driftwood. I smiled. Some people are just passing through your life, and others are the life worth living.